Armada Book 3 Chapter 7 The Simoties Part 2. The next day at Andrew's Bridge. Sarudam beamed in, then Gantley and Tonin beamed in. Then Ellie, Jenny and Lachine beams in. You must be done with your chores. Andrew said. Roger and Eric beams in. Yes we are, and we are so ready to go home. Gantley said. I left an evacuation crew in one planet and 5 ships per planet for all the Norset planets. The only problem I encountered was in these overly emotional Norset leaders in one planet. They were so distrustful even if we look like them. How long will you take to do your part of the mission, Andrew? Tonin asked. I could leave right now and the outcome will not change much. Andrew said. Gadden and Simultaman beamed in. Good, because you are. Gadden exclaimed. Gadden, buddy, I thought you were dead. And Simultaman, I thought you ran away with your girlfriend. No, Andrew, if I had a girlfriend you would be the first to know. Simultaman approached Lachine. Simultaman, this is Lachine. She came from one of the planets. Andrew said. Yes, she's the heroine of the galaxies, the strategist behind her sister. Excuse me, sir. You must mistake me for somebody else. I like you, Lachine, light-hearted and livid, always joking around. Come here, sit. Let me look at you. Whoa, something's up. Gadden, there is something wrong. Olive, prepare the Armada to leave ASAP. Andrew said. Sir, what's wrong? Gadden? Ellie asked. Andrew, you can really sense me. Lachine sat and Simultaman kneeled in front of her. He held both of her hands. Lachine kept quiet as Simultaman held her hands. Then he kissed her left hand, then her right. Did you do something to me, sir? I only did what you already know. In 2 days, a report from a hop outpost about 1.1 BLY away from the edge of the Mac galaxy will come to us to report 2 groups of Armada 1 BLY apart moving at 1/4 our speed towards the center of the collective. Gadden explained. Billy and Tony have left and will intercept them about 300 MLY beyond the hop ship. Simultaman added. Gadden, how large is the Armada? Gantley asked. 3,000 on one side and 3,200 on the other. Billy and Tony will take them all on and they will succeed with disabling around 2,000 ships. But he will not pursue them but instead send us the intel. He has other plans. He will attack their homeworld. You know your friend well, Andrew. Billy's actions will delay their arrival by 3 days. Simultaman said. If we move now, we will be there in 12 days. Andrew said. Tonin added, the invaders will be there in 16 days. We have 4 days to prepare for an invasion. Yes, there would be time and we must act on Billy's intel. Simultaman agreed. Okay, we have to go. We have to take Lachine with us. Gadden said. Where's Sarudam? There you are. You're still trying to look good? Simultaman asked. You know me, sir, I always try to look good and die looking good. They laughed. Okay guys, we'll see you in 10 days. Billy's report will come earlier through the hop, so be good. We will see you later. Simultaman said. The 3 disappeared. Olive reported, the ships can leave within the hour. We can leave now. Let's go. Tell the Armada to follow and leave only 5 ships, all newbies, per planet. Andrew said. Sonia appears as a hologram. Hi Andrew, I can't find Lachine. Can you tell her to contact me please? Hi Sonia, well she left with one of my team members and Sarudam's Sage. Did you say Sage? His name is Simultaman and also a persistent joker. He called your sister the heroine of the galaxies? Oh dear. Where is she going? The way I look at it is that she will get a tour of the collective and meet some other people about 12 BLY away. What did you mean by, oh dear? It's a long story, but my people call her a heroine for saving millions of people when she commanded the First Army in countless instances. She was able to stall and drag the war for years until I was able to replace her before she gets killed. If you look at her you would see a very young, even playful girl, but no general of mine has ever matched her feats of bravery and skill in the battlefield. She has this quality to anticipate the enemy's moves, and she tried to teach her commanders how to do this. Some learned and the best of them I got to replace her. And from the stories I got from her about the way you work, your Armada did things like how she was doing then. When I see her I will tell her to call you. Right now I know she's traveling through the hops but don't know where she is exactly. Once she stops, she will get your message. So I would assume you are leaving as well. Can you leave Brent and his ships with us? Yes and yes. But I will give him some ships to train also. Sonia nodded and waved goodbye and she disappeared. I will proceed immediately. Gantley said. I will leave now. Tonin added. I intend to leave now and the others would have to follow. Andrew said. I think I will go visit my folks first. I will just meet my ship at the Mac galaxies. Ellie said. You know what, Ellie, I want to go to planet Los Angeles also. Olive, tell the ships to go to the Mac galaxies. I will be there in 12 days to meet you. Andrew said. The men are asking if. Olive asked. Fine, they can go ahead. Use the newbies to form the skeleton crew. Andrew said. Shall we, sir? Ellie asked. Andrew nodded and Olive beamed them out. They reached planet Los Angeles in less than a day. Roger, Eric, Jenny, Hiru, Kirk, Joey and several commanders went with them, making their trip an enjoyable one. They got to experience the new amenities in the hop ships like better food and rest areas. Andrew and Ellie reached planet Los Angeles before dinner, and since Timmy and Vicky found out about their trip, they prepared a nice dinner at Andrew's house. It was a pleasant surprise for Andrew and Ellie, so they enjoyed a quiet meal with their family. It was also a short dinner because Tim insisted that Ellie take a good night's sleep after the long hop travel. The next day, Andrew made sure he spent the whole morning with Adam and Vicky. Before lunch, people started coming in. Layla and her dad arrived with wines. Then Ellie and her family arrived because they expected Albert, Harold, and the girls to be there. By the time Andrew went to open the French doors leading to the backyard, there was a party busy preparing the food. Tables and chairs were already beamed in by Vicky's ship. Several Brads and Toms was there busy with the main food and dessert tables. As he stepped out, he noticed Brad and Tom were grilling a young calf and a young pig. Hey Timmy, whose birthday is it anyway? Andrew asked. Albert is coming over. Julia, Danny and Ari beamed in with her friends. Then Edna and her kids, then Maria and her kids. Beth and her family beamed in right after. Victor and his family arrived with some of their corporate executives. The developers Jimmy and Rod and their families beamed in. Then several scientists from Planet Portland beamed in. The governors of Planet Berlin and Planet Tokyo beamed in with their assistants. Then the Canadians and the French Planet governors beamed in with their staff. Then General Alan Cook with his staff beamed in with the spaceport commanders. Max and his wife and some of the Academy officers beamed in. Several more groups beamed in and Brad kept adding tables and chairs. Vicky got out with Adam and Ellie was quick in getting hold of him. I only knew about this yesterday. Vicky told Andrew. Julia, what's this all about? Timmy asked. Ask Albert. I see clouds in the horizon, Timmy. Andrew said. Nah, Albert probably has a new girlfriend or something. Andrew saw that the Brads have finished setting up the buffet table. Albert beamed in with Daisy, Harold and Hans Mayer. Then several more generals beamed in with their wives. Then several colonels and officers beamed in. Then some of Albert's and Harold's staff beamed in. Brad, make sure you have wines and brandy on all the tables. Vicky said. Andrew, how was your trip? Albert greeted Andrew. It was actually very pleasant, more pleasant when we came home to a quiet dinner. Good, I hope you don't mind a sudden party. I like this open place. So what's up, President Albert? Timmy asked. In a minute. Let's get something to drink first. Andrew watched Albert and he got a bottle of wine and gave it to Harold. Harold started to pour it in glasses with Daisy helping out, which he gave to Hans, Julia, Timmy, Albert and Andrew. The girls seemed to know as they got their own bottles and started pouring wine. Albert went to the back door steps and turned around. Okay, before anything else. Andrew, Ellie, welcome home. To your home. Albert started. Andrew smiled. I know you find this strange to have a get-together in a backyard, but this backyard is where a lot of intergalactic decisions were made and continue to be made. I hope everybody have a glass of wine or brandy. Albert paused and made sure everybody had a glass of wine or brandy. He looked around and asked the AIs to give some to those people who were not holding anything. Albert continued, I would like to propose a toast for my buddy, my best friend and the most capable person to be the next President of the United States. To Harold Hicks, the next President of the United States. He raised his glass and approached Harold to click his glass. There was some surprise awes. Some clapped their hands while others raised their glasses to toast for Harold. So that's what this is. Andrew said. Harold stepped into the steps and, are you sure I will win, Albert? The crowd laughed. Albert nodded. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. He paused to let the clapping die down a little. I hope you did this believing I would be the best alternative among many to lead our country forward in these fast-changing times. After sleeping on it, I awoke to a realization that our voting demographics have changed. Now the old-timers are going to vote again. The off-world people are also going to vote. So my focus is really to make sure everybody is able to vote. Julia tells me we will have more than 5 million people who will become citizens before election time, all connected to off-world people. And it would be in my term that this off-world reality will be outed. So to put it mildly, we are headed for a bumpy ride. But then we have all gone a long way in the last few years. And the way forward is much longer. The people here in this backyard are those that make things happen, and without your support my job will be extremely hard to do. Thank you and have a good lunch." Everybody started congratulating Harold except Julia and the girls. "So, Mr. President, you will be taking over my position as head of the Human Council?" Timmy asked. "Yes, but not yet. Then you would have to stay as head of the U.S. group of planets. I would like to bring Hans here as governor of Planet Seattle since the position has not been filled from the start. I am also designating Dr. Ed Fernandez as governor of Planet Portland to take over Dr. Ness Weber because Weber requested to be replaced by Ed. There will be a summit in Planet Berlin among the planet governors and it would be good if you attended." Timmy said. "Yes, I would like that. It's good that you are here, Andrew. How are the human planets?" Harold asked. "We felt very inadequate to deal with their issues. I think we should create a group that will deal with the planets and help them with all their issues." "How many human planets are we talking about?" Vicky asked. 8 or maybe 10 if you include Layla's and the other planet we met a few months back. They all have different needs and we have the tools to help them, we just need the right people. I would suppose energy is the first problem, then food, then education," Harold said. "You're right on the money. The energy and food can be addressed very easily. But education takes time and they need high-impact technology courses to make the society immediately benefit from." "I think I have the solution," Vicky said. Andrew looked at his wife. Vicky called Edna and Maria over. Then she called Layla over also. Ellie was still carrying Adam as she followed the two. Adam saw his mother and reached out for her, so Vicky had to carry him. "The girls here, with our cooperation, intend to make a science planet out of Planet Portland. What we can do is to invite students from all those human planets and we will teach them adult courses that they can use to benefit their planet in the shortest possible time," Vicky said while swaying Adam. "That's exactly what we were thinking. But the student number is very high," Ellie said. "How high, Ellie?" Vicky asked. "Maybe 800,000 from several planets. That's about 10 large universities of 80,000 students each," Edna said. "That's roughly 400 or so number of buildings. Victor, come over here please," Maria said. "But I guess you have a build-up period of say 1 year. Say you start with 10,000 per planet or 80,000 students to start, then build up in 2 years up to that number," Ellie said. "Victor, if we have 80,000 students and we would need about 40 buildings, how long would we need to be able to start teaching them?" Edna asked. "Maybe 4 months, $4 billion and $80,000 per year per student all in." Harold butted in, "So it's doable then. The goodwill this will generate would be tremendous," Ellie said. Edna added, "Goodwill is everything we need, Ellie. After 2 years, some of those students will be returning to their planets and become productive technology leaders, maybe even business and government leaders. Making selling our wines, ice creams, brandies and everything else extremely easy," Maria said. "Free education in the most advanced human education facilities in the galaxies," Vicky added. "All we need now are the first contact operators who are sociologists, teachers, scientists and so on to set the ball rolling," Andrew said. "We can set a summit for all their leaders so they all know at the same time what's in store," Vicky said while swaying Adam side to side, this time harder. Victor explained, "We already studied this project inside out and our only problem was where to get the students, and here you have them. We can implement this right away. We will also move all the military and starship training academies to that planet," Vicky said. Albert and Julia approached Andrew and, "Andrew, how did the first contacts come along?" Albert asked him. "There were 2 planets that were not taken over by the bad guys and we did not make first contact with them. Our problem is that the first contact we do is really supposed to be that, first contact. But the situation demands immediate response to some of their needs which we are really not the best people to deal with. First off, we are an armada who go after bad guys. Solving social and political issues are not our cup of tea. We can do refugee work or medical missions, but to create new institutions where there are none or to recreate old ones destroyed by the bad guys are really out of our area of expertise. Either we come out with really good first contact teams to deal with those issues or we integrate those guys into your armada," Julia said. "Our armada scientists and staff were decimated because we had to leave our ships and people near those planets. My scientists are now less than a third of what I started with because some were deployed to help train some people, some were left in the planets to do things and some were just left there to teach. These are not what Armada scientists do. Our primary objective is to discover technology from aliens or develop new ones in response to field situations and study problems and issues in the field. The Portland project is a good call and should be done ASAP," Ellie explained. Andrew, how long can we bring them along and into the human network? Albert asked. Not within a year. Maybe the next year. But the student program must start ASAP and in the largest scale possible. Remember, we are not talking about countries, these are planets where the smallest population is 160 million at least. One of our potential issues is when we get into the high-tech top-of-the-line technologies where we would need Norsets, Macs, and Inkeys to teach, the technical divide is too large. The new planet students would start from the very bottom while the Norsets, Inkeys, and Macs start from the upper middle. Edna said. Maria's idea is to create another set of universities dealing with the more advanced subjects. Vicky added. Look guys, it's really just a matter of time. In less than 2 years, all the people would be up to speed with the middle to upper middle technologies that the Norsets and Inkeys and Macs would be comfortable teaching. Right now we just need humans to teach the humans. Rodin sent 20,000 scientists to teach, which we then allocated to 4 planets and some for the Jectinox, and I know they will have a hard time doing the teaching. My scientists experienced this. Ellie explained. Julia, why don't you go around and see what we can do to respond and free the Armada from this chore? Also develop the summit for all their leaders to attend so we can start the ball rolling in an organized way. Take Maria with you, Maria go with Julia and see what's out there. Albert suggested. Andrew added, Kirk would be the best guy to go around with you. You mean Kirk from the former U.S. Starship Enterprise? I think I know the guy. Julia said. That's the guy. Ellie said. I will have him contact you. It would be best to leave ASAP. No, give Kirk a few days off. Maybe in 3 days. And may I also recommend making first contact with the 2 we left out after your go-around? Andrew said. Can I bring Victor? Maria asked. Bring anybody you like. Albert said. Shannon and Alan recommended a lot of things for first contacts and I told them to assemble 2 teams for the 2 human planets and make first contact. I think Alan and Shannon worked on it themselves. It would be good if you can visit these 2 planets and get them into the summit. Harold said. So I have 3 days to prepare for my first intergalactic mission. Julia said. Albert added, and rewrite the book on diplomacy and intergalactic relations. Andrew, the council also meant Layla's planet. More so because they are beside our Fire Dawn project planets. Harold said. We also found a human planet where we dealt with the Listons. That too, Harold said. 3 days later. At his backyard, Andrew met with his team. Then they decided to use the hops to go to Layla's planet and make first contact. He planned on bringing the original team but Gadden was away so he called Reek to join Ellie and Roger for first contact. They arrived at his house's backyard right after lunch. Our ships will be in the area in 2 days. So we just have to use the hops to go the Laylas. Ellie said. Layla and Dr. Abatus beamed in. Y Layla, de Rabatus? Andrew greeted them. Finally Andrew, we are going back. Well, you seem happy. Andrew quipped. I am not happy because we are going to the old planet. I am happy because Layla here is with my grandchild. Ellie, Roger, Reek and finally Andrew congratulated her. Vicky overheard the congratulatory activities so she went out and carrying Adam congratulated her as well. Ellie as usual got Adam from Vicky and played with him. I am so excited. I am going to be a grandfather. Did you see a doctor already? Vicky asked Layla. Yes, but what can he say? My dad is the one having a lot to say. Well, that's what grandfathers are for. Andrew commented. When do we leave for the old planet? Abatus asked. We were thinking about maybe in a few minutes. Layla, you don't have to go. Andrew said. And I really don't like to go. There's nothing for me there. Does Tony know already? Vicky asked. No, but if he asked his ship or investigates he would know. Andrew kissed Vicky and Adam and they all beamed to the hops. In less than 2 hours they are already at Millen's laboratory. This time he was expecting them. Millen, this is Dr. Reek. I brought him along for the first contact. Andrew, maybe you should call it second or third contact. You've been here before you know. We can go now. They drove to the palace and as usual the guard let them through. The king was in the gardens alone reading something. When the king saw them he stood and walked over to greet them. King Boronado exclaimed, I remember you, you're Andrew, Ellie, you're Roger. Yes, and this is Dr. Reek. How are you, King Boronado? Andrew asked. Well, I'm still here. Where have you been? You were not in any of the victory ceremonies. Dr. Abatus, you seem happy. So I guess you have a new employer. No, my dear king, I work for myself by myself now. So you're rich? Millen asked surprised. Of course not. Are you kidding? You know me. So are you people going to give me diamond again or what? Andrew answered him, "We came here to bring you something much more valuable than diamond. Not another war, I hope. We are bringing to you the galaxies," Ellie said, dramatically waving her hand. "Which one?" Ellie got stumped. Andrew exclaimed, "A lot of them." "And what do you want this time?" "Friendship and to be your equal." Andrew answered. "That's cheap. All my people are equal to me. And your diamond made us friends." Ellie is not following the trend of the conversation. "And some new technologies to help you out and solidify our friendship." Andrew added. "Diamond would have been okay, but if it will benefit my people, I will be glad to receive it." "Millen can teach you this new technology," Ellie said. "Which one, Ellie?" Millen asked. "Fusion energy." "Which one of those?" "The ones using diamond." "But we don't have a lot of diamond," Borinatu interjected. "You have, we just have to bring it up to the surface," Roger said. "How much diamond would this new energy use, Millen?" Borinatu asked. "Maybe a few million tons. We cannot possibly have that much diamond. The ones you gave me in the bags were the largest stack of diamond I have ever seen in my life, and I had to sell it for the war. We will bring up diamond many times as large as your palace," Ellie said. "Where will you go to get them?" "From your planet, of course. Although we can bring in some, it's not needed because you have a lot here already, just underground," Andrew answered. "Whatever happened to the Fire Dawn? You never got any." "We found them elsewhere," Ellie said. "What were they for anyway?" Dr. Abaddis answered, "We created a power generator that uses them. We can also give you this." "Millen?" "Yes, I have the schematics, Dr. Abaddis. Just give us some working generators." "I can give you 200 generators," Ellie said. "So these generators can give power to a building?" Borinatu asked. "One generator can power 1 million homes," Ellie said. "The last time you were here you tried to prevent a war and you gave me diamond, so you can just argue your point of not going to war. Even if I assume you knew war was imminent. I never got around to understand why you did what you did." "And now?" Andrew asked. "Now you come here to give me technologies that will benefit my people and the galaxies, and you only want friendship and to be treated as equal. That would include treating all our friends and allies as equals, Borinatu," Andrew said. Borinatu continued, "We have nothing of use to you. Our people have nothing to give you. And I feel crazy to be talking like this to you. You proved your point last time with diamond. Can you prove your point this time with diamond as well? Are you trying to hustle from us?" Roger asked. "You just seem so strange. I feel strange even talking to you about what we were just talking about. Okay, bring me diamond as large as my palace and we have a deal." "So all along you were playing with us, not believing what we are talking about?" Ellie asked. "How else can I behave as I did?" Andrew interjected, "That's not a problem. Where would you want the diamond stacked?" "The palace has a large open area behind it up to the bank of the lake. Put it there and we have a deal." "And the deal is?" Dr. Reek asked. "You will be treated as equals and we would be friends forever." "That's all? Don't you feel you are being underpriced for your friendship? Diamond are really a cheap way to pay for friendship and to be treated as equals," Andrew said. "When will you deliver?" Borinatu asked. "We will be back in 2 days," Andrew said. They left the king in the garden and they went with Millen back to his lab. "Sir, why did we not just beam out?" Ellie asked. Andrew looked at Ellie. "Didn't you find the king strange?" "Millen, why did the king behave the way he did?" Abaddis asked. "He is bored to death," Millen answered. "Millen, we will be back in 2 days," Abaddis said. They beamed out and returned to planet Los Angeles. The next day, at Harold's office at the space station, Kirk walked in with Victor and Santiago. Andrew beamed in with Ellie. Andrew greeted them, "Hi guys. We are going to establish contact with Layla's planet. We were thinking of inviting Julia here to look at the process. It will only take the day today." Julia smiled, "Good idea. I would love to. Kirk, come with me. Londi, wait for Ari, stay here and we will be back." "Yes, Julia," Londi said. At Andrew's bridge, Roger and Reek were talking about how to deal with a bored-to-death king when Andrew, Ellie, Julia and Kirk beamed in. Roger explained to Julia and Kirk the issues. "I cannot believe that boredom can get you that bored on first contact," Ellie said. "There's also the question of belief. His boredom made him doubt we can even deliver or there is truth in what we were saying," Reek explained. Andrew exclaimed, "Let me handle this guy. All you need is really a little bit of drama." Olive. "Yes, Andrew. When I wave my hand like this, get a large diamond as large as a building and float it in front of me. I will be standing at the palace backyard bounded by the lake. When I do this, you put or just drop the diamond at the bank of the lake to make some splash. Now we will do this for say 10 times and by that time the backyard would be full of the rocks. Yes, I would have to prepare the rocks, beam them up onto the ground ready for you, for your hand signal. Then we let our ships hover over the lake and around the area, say 100 ships, all of you hover over the palace and in one signal, all of the ships uncloak. Roger said. Ellie nodded and I like that. That will darken the skies and create some wind turbulence. Andrew agreed, good idea Roger. Then we invite him for a tour of the ship where he could see all the aliens on the ships. Then we invite him for a luncheon at my ship's reception area. We would have to let Millen on the game. Olive, where's Millen? Abatus asked. At his lab. Can you tell him to come over please? Andrew asked. Millen appeared. Hello Andrew, guys. What's up? Roger explained their plans to put some drama into the presentation to the king. Millen put a thumbs up, exactly, what he needs. You see, he is not really doing anything as king. He has delegated all his duties to the council and he chose his people well. So even when you were talking about outlandish things his boredom made him react in a believing but still disbelieving way bored out of his wits. Now who would we need among his people that would make his experience even better? Andrew asked. Millen smiled and, there are his 2 sons, daughter and wife. I can get them together when you make your play. And if you plan the luncheon, the king loves meat and the boofing meat will probably become his new favorite. How about ice cream and brandy? Ellie asked. Sure Ellie. How about a demonstration of your guns on the diamond? Roger countered, it might be too dangerous and some rocks may fly to where the king and his family are and they might get hurt or alarmed. My ship has a laser cutter, we can cut a large diamond in half to show him the inside and of course to prove it's really diamond. Ellie said. That's good Ellie. Millen said. Andrew explained, Ellie, put drama in it by giving your ship a hand signal, like this or something. Ellie agreed so Tom beamed over and she gave him the hand signals and instructions. Andrew, what if we ask him to join our missions to the other planets? Reek asked. I agree, I can take care of him, show him the ropes and maybe he can help us deal with situations. Maybe if he is good, we can give him a ship and designate him captain. Roger followed through. You're offering the king a job? Andrew asked. Millen agreed, that may actually be a good idea. See, he feels he cannot contribute anything anymore because everything has been taken care of. This way, he might actually be happy to be designated captain of one of your ships after the training of course. We can call him King, Borinatu is too technical. Ellie said. If we shorten Borinatu, it becomes Borin. Oops very close to boring. Why don't we call him Captain Nate? Andrew asked. The name his mother gave him was Junipo, maybe you can call him Junie or June. Millen said. Are we overdoing it already, guys? Reek asked. Andrew laughs, right, Millen, go and gather the family and when you are done, tell the Max here and we will all beam down. I have an implant so I will just call. Olive, beam me to the palace now. I will see you all tomorrow. The next day. Olive, get the ships into positions. Start getting the rocks. Andrew said. Do you always put drama in your work? Julia asked. Kirk laughed, Madam Secretary, the general is conscious, always cognizant of the fact that all these will be in the movies. Julia laughed. That's not a bad idea at all. I think we should put drama in the things we do. How about conflict? Conflicts make for good drama. Andrew countered, we cannot always veer too far from reality. If we create a conflict, the conflict will conflict with the real story and we would have to change the story to suit the conflict. It's not easy to do this in the real world. So you have thought about conflict? Julia asked. Reek explained, yes, Madam Secretary, all our people do all the time because they know what boring is and Armada life is the very definition of boring. After an hour Millen told Olive the King's family is waiting at the back of the palace. Okay guys, it's showtime once again. Olive. Where are our translators? Andrew asked. They are all on the table behind you. They got their translators and nodded at Andrew who grabbed one himself. You guys go ahead, we'll watch from here. Julia said. Kirk gave Julia a translator and showed her how to turn it on. Andrew and his group appeared before the king and his family. Greetings King Borinatu. Andrew exclaimed. Borinatu and his family jumped up from their seat. Hello Andrew. Borinatu pretended to be unexcited but he showed enthusiasm when he introduced his family. This is my queen Myrnie, my eldest son Harton, my daughter Chaylin and my youngest Herlet. His kids look like 17 to 20 years old. Chaylin looked like 18 years old and looks like her mother. None of the kids looked like Borinatu. But they were all well dressed and very neat. How did you do that? Chaylin asked. Ellie looked at her, it's a long story but we would be happy to explain and show you. Okay Andrew, where are the diamond rocks you promised? You can put them there at the corner. Andrew raised his hand and a diamond rock as big as the palace appeared behind him near the edge of the lake. He motioned and the rock dropped and made a big splash but not enough to reach their position. Andrew exclaimed, I have 10 of those to start with. He motioned his hand again but this time quicker. A rock appeared and splashed beside the first one. After 6 rocks the king told him to stop since he's messing up the garden. Andrew said he'll just put them at the back of the first rock into the lake. The king nodded and Andrew proceeded to dump the diamond rocks into the lake. Ellie interjected and walked nearer the rocks. Let me cut one for you so you can see what's inside. Ellie motioned his pointing fingers to one of the rocks and a laser started to hit the rock. She slowly pointed her finger downwards and the diamond rock is getting cut in two. When she finished she used 2 hands to motion to separate the 2 halves from her position. See, it's real diamond. Ellie said smiling. I'm impressed. So the bagful of diamond you impressed me with was worth nothing to you. Almost nothing, but it's the symbolism that matters. Andrew said. We would like to invite you to a luncheon in Andrew's ship. Reek said. Where are your ships? Borinatu asked. Andrew raised his hand and all the ships appeared around them. It did become darker. The area became windy and the royal family huddled together. Andrew let it sink into the family. On another signal from Andrew the ships disappeared again. Where do they go? Borinatu asked. Right now they're in space. Andrew answered. Borinatu asked again, so how can we go to your ship? Do you want to go now? Andrew asked Borinatu. Yes. The king and his family suddenly had a quick blur, then they found themselves in the luncheon area. Okay, Andrew, you impressed me. His family ran towards the transparent floor-to-ceiling wall of the luncheon room to gaze at space. As usual, Olive positioned herself near the planet so the guests can see their planet. And you haven't tasted the food yet? Andrew commented. Father, look at our planet, it's really pretty but small. Chaylin said. Borinatu walked over and held his daughter's hand. I could never imagine to see our planet this way. The boys held their mother's hand and Andrew's group just stood by for a few minutes. After a few minutes of silence, Reek invited, may we invite you for some of our food? Borinatu smiled. He hasn't smiled like that for years, no decades. Millen whispered to Andrew. Chaylin looked at her father. Father, why are you smiling? You never smile. Sit down, Chaylin. Over there beside Ellie. Andrew let us sit together, here. Before they could start, Julia and Kirk walked in. Andrew greeted them. Hi Julia, Kirk, you're just in time for lunch. Ellie introduced the king and his family to Julia and Kirk. They all sat together. Food appeared on the table and Ellie started with the ice cream. She actually exaggerated her arm and finger movements to give a better show. Once ready she gave each of the guests a cup and showed, with some exaggeration, how to put the spoon in the mouth and taste the ice cream. The guests followed in almost the same exaggerated way. Their faces lit up and the king smiled even more. Chaylin looked at Borinatu. Father, will you stop smiling, you're starting to scare me. Her face lit up when she tasted the ice cream and stopped looking at her father. This is really good, Chaylin. Murney? Chaylin did not even answer but decided to make a go at it. This is heavenly. Incredible and heavenly. Murney said. Absolutely to die for. Chaylin added. Julia noticed the overacting Ellie and the quietness in Andrew's group as they let the king and the family do the reacting. They obviously have witnessed this so many times before, Julia thought. Reek and Roger were busy pouring wines into wine glasses and passing it around. Where do your people eat, Andrew? Borinatu asked. We have a mess hall where everybody eats. Andrew said. Then why don't we eat there? We would like to be treated equally like everybody else. Andrew stood up. As you wish, this way please. They all stood and walked to the mess hall. Along the way the king and his family saw several alien forms. The mess hall was not full but it was regularly busy and noisy. They fell in line and the family looked at the food. Julia is really getting amused, she was even thinking of eating some alien food. She started talking to the server behind the counter who obviously does not know her. They had to shout at each other to understand themselves. Borinatu saw Julia behind him and started asking questions as well, shouting also to Andrew. Andrew tried to help out with the answers on the food he knows, which is really very few. Kirk was explaining the food to the boys while Ellie was laughing with Chaylin about something. Olive beamed the same table and chairs and their wines as well. Andrew saw this and motioned Borinatu to sit where he sat before. Ellie sat beside Borinatu and Chaylin sat beside her. Andrew sat across Borinatu while Julia sat beside him on his left. Julia, are you sure you can eat Talonot food? Andrew asked. Looks good enough for me. This meat is incredible. Where do you get this? Borinatu asked. Ellie explained, from the Bofangs, like that guy over there behind the counter. They have a planet just growing animals for this meat. It's soft and tasty. Where's this planet? Borinatu asked. About 7 bly away. Ellie said. Chaylin explained to her dad how far that is. Junie here was telling me you're doing this so we can be friends and treat you as our equals? Myrnie asked. Yes, that's about it. Reek answered. Why? We have nothing to give you. We cannot work for you because you will have to teach us. Myrnie added. Friendship is an end in itself. Believe me, it is not easy to come by. Andrew said. We also take this equality thing very seriously. Roger added. If you look at the aliens here, we have 7 species, sometimes 9 or more in some ships. We all treat each other as brothers and sisters. We argue a lot and fight, but at the end of the day we protect each other when we encounter the bad guys. Kirk followed through. Yes, I noticed the aliens look so at home. Boronata said. This is their home. Olive, water please. Andrew said. Olive appeared and beamed some water. She started pouring the water into a glass and passed it around. Your assistant is very pretty. Chaylin said. Andrew explained, she is my ship. She just takes a human body so she can pour the water. Sometimes she just appears like that without a body. She takes care of our people very well and she is very smart. Thank you, Andrew. Olive said. All our ships have persons like Olive. Tom, where are you? Here, this is Tom, he is my ship AI. Ellie said. Reek started, a lot of people may not understand it, but you have to understand what treating people equally means before you can travel the galaxies and relate to aliens properly. I have no problem with that. Boronata said. We believe you. Normally after we break the ice so to speak, we offer technology to help you out. Not a lot because we want your people to slowly learn the technologies. Roger said. As we mentioned before, we would provide you with a very cheap source of energy, then we will help you with your food requirements. Ellie said. What about the other 2 countries? Millen asked. They're your allies, right? Andrew added. Yes, one of them have been talking to us into integrating their country to ours. That would be better. In our old planet, we still have countries, but outside, all our planets are single country planets. Or countries with many planets. It's easier to manage and relate this way. In the end, you get identified not really by country but what planet you live in or came from. And mind you, some of our planets have many different aliens living there as citizens. Andrew explained. Again, if your concept of equality does not include aliens who are our brothers, then the system falls apart. Reek said. Boronata nodded, I understand. Reek started, Boronatu. Boronata cut him. Maybe you should just call me Junie, it sounds more in line with being equal. Reek continued, Junie, would you like to join us in some of our missions around the galaxies? Go ahead, Junie, I can take care of the kingdom. Chaylin, accompany your father. Myrnie said. I am King Myrnie and I say you take care of the kingdom, and Chaylin you accompany me. Exactly. Andrew see, I trained him well to repeat what I say. Everybody laughs. Andrew, are you seriously letting me go with you? Junie asked. Well, we will train you, Roger will be your boss. And if you're good, we can give you your own ship and even give you the rank of captain. I like that. Count me in. Roger, train me. Myrnie exclaimed, you don't have to repeat that. They all laughed again. Roger explained, actually, we would also take several thousands of your people to train in our ships. So after a year or so, they can teach your people. Maybe your people can learn how to build ships like this in a few years for your own use. We will also send people to teach your people on the ground, and we will also have a few thousands of your people train in a planet university specifically created for our first contact planets. Junie nodded, I can bring the Imperial Guards under Commander Brasun. He has 15,000 people. How many would you need, Roger? Maybe 50,000 would be good excluding the scientists. Ellie explained, there will be a lot of applicants, so choose the scientists first, say 10,000 scientists, then those for the university, maybe 10,000 to start, and then 50,000 of your top military people for our ships. We have devised a lottery so you can limit the people to within the target numbers. You seem to have a lot of experience on these operations. Junie said. You could say that. But Julia here would be the person in charge after we make contact and leave your planet. Her job is to integrate you to the human network, our species, across the galaxies. Reek said. How many planets would that be? Myrnie asked. Dozens with different human species. Andrew said. Do you think our people are prepared to travel the galaxies, to go out? Junie asked. You tell me. You have created a very egalitarian society and delegated your powers well. Your people can take it. Believe me, we have seen human planets who cannot be trusted to travel the galaxies. Andrew said. And you told them not to travel? Myrnie asked. Ellie answered her, well, first they have no ships. And we told them to fix their societies first before we even let them travel. Some are too paranoid, some are too war-oriented. Your planet has high grades as far as we are concerned. Roger said. You let me fight my war. Something you could have stopped if you wanted to. Yes, we could have. And we have done this on many occasions in some planets who are not even human. Andrew said. But you didn't. You let me be. Wouldn't you? Reek asked. Yes, I would. And Millen knows about this all along? Yes, he did, but Millen is another story which you will find out later on. Andrew said. Millen did not even bother to look at the king and kept eating away. Wait, are your missions dangerous? I might end up losing Junie here. Murney said, concerned. Roger quickly said, don't worry, he thrives in danger. See, Murney, these are the people who, like Roger here, understands me. Fine, as long as you understand me, it's okay with me. Murney said. Thank you. Junie said. Julia laughed because the exchange reminded her of Danny. Ellie started her discussion on the TP and the effect of longer life. That means I'm stuck with Murney for a longer period than I bargained for? Junie asked. They laughed. Exactly my thoughts. Murney said. Reek exclaimed, we have an active comedy duo here. Ellie added, and if you miss each other, Junie, Murney, you can travel the galaxies and see each other within a day or so. Maybe, maybe not. But how? Murney asked. Ellie proceeded to explain the hop systems, and their planet is in the middle of the network. Olive produced a hologram of the sphere and lighted the hops and some planets as Ellie explained away. So Andrew, how long would you be staying by our planet? Junie asked. Maybe a day or two. Since you are in the middle of our network, we can just leave and our people and your people can do the exchanging and go to us. As Ellie explained, our people do not need ships to travel within the sphere. We need to go to another planet 4 BLY away from here and make first contact. And these are humans also? Junie asked. Yes, but not like our side of the human species, we call them Neanderthals. Slightly different but the same species. Ellie explained. Julia started, Junie, we were impressed at how you delegated your powers and let your planet be governed by your own people. We are planning a summit for all the planet leaders of all the human planets we contacted. I would like to ask you if you can be one of the speakers. Tell the leaders about your experiences. Maybe you can learn about and from them as well. You can bring your delegation with you so they can relate with the other delegations. I would absolutely love to do that, Julia. I would have to ask my boss Roger here. It would bring the Armada honor if one of our own becomes a speaker in the summit. Well put, Roger. Andrew said. I guess we are all done here. Would you like to have a tour of the ship? Reek asked. Sure. Let us go. Junie said. Julia and Kirk stayed behind. Andrew and Roger stayed to talk to her. Andrew, you did that very well. Dramatics included. Your team was patient and Ellie was dramatic. Ellie handled the ice cream with flair. Very civil and courteous. Julia said. Some of our other guests in previous first contacts were not as civil. Andrew said. So you open up the fusion and food then personnel exchange and training? Julia asked. Well, that is all we could offer. It's a good thing we don't have to fix their societies. Andrew said. Roger added, or that they did not come out of a war. So different planets in different technological and societal states. Well, all the more exciting. This is really a welcome change in my work. I will go around first, informally before I bring in the teams. Julia said. Good, now we're getting somewhere. Our job has limits and we reached our limits beyond which we cannot proceed to improve anymore. Andrew said. I understand. But how did you know that the king will even consider working with you? It was Reek's idea, Roger followed through. They read him correctly. Andrew said. Come on, Kirk, let us go back to Harold's office. Bye, Andrew, Roger, Ellie. Sarudam beams in. Andrew, Roger. Hi, buddy, how was your vacation? It was enjoyable. The king wants to join us and I said no. He was very insistent. He even had the people make a special ship for him so he said he would not be a burden to the Armada. I told him after maybe a year or so. Poor guy, why didn't he want him to join us? Ellie asked. Sarudam smiled. He stayed a lot of time in the Armada ship Tony gave him near the Metal Moon factory. There he actually has read all the stories of GX1 and Jen Cook and he felt he is missing a lot. So he started learning things about the ships. And the ship scientists actually devoted time in teaching him. I will let him in, but I would have to tell him to behave like everybody else. That seems like a good reason. Andrew said. Also, Andrew, the Dugnog will be near Sigatonin in 2 days. Olive, I told you to warn me when we should meet the Dugnogs. Olive appeared. I intended to tell you tomorrow. If we leave now we would be in the area a day before we need to. Right, tell the other ships we'll go now. I want to meet these guys, again.